This tree, Acer saccharum, is known as the sugar maple. All the maple products we know derive from the sap gathered from this tree. It is upon this tree, which grows only in North America, that an entire industry flourishes. Why such a rush? Well, sap gathering time is a frantic time. The season is short and there's much to be done while the sap runs. The farmer must be alert to the changes in the weather, for when the sap begins to run, he must have his roads plowed, his trees tapped, and his buckets hung in the maple woods, which Vermonters call a sugar bush. Making syrup is a family affair. The Vermont schools often plan their spring vacation to coincide with sugaring time, and of course the kids love it. Modern machinery makes the work lighter, but any farmer will tell you that sugaring, while it lasts, is one of the hardest of all farm jobs. The work becomes worthwhile, however, when one thinks of all the many maple products which come from the sap of the maple tree. Besides well-known maple syrup, we have maple candy, cream, sugar, blended syrups, flavoring for food and tobacco, as well as many other products. Despite legends and stories, we don't know exactly how maple syrup was discovered, but we do know that the Indians had the secret and made maple syrup and sugar. They had only the crudest of equipment. Using tomahawks, they cut V-shaped notches to carry the maple sap into bark containers. The sap was boiled in hollow logs by throwing hot rocks into the liquid. The first white settlers learned sugar making from the Indians and soon found ways to improve these methods. They used an auger to bore holes in the trees and substituted iron and copper kettles for the perishable wood and bark vessels. But wooden sap buckets were used for nearly a century before tin and galvanized buckets came into general use. Today, the entire process of sugaring is a combination of an art and a science. To be able to continually produce maple products of top quality, the farmer must be proficient at all phases of sugaring, as well as be willing to work long and hard during the season. Today, portable self-powered tapping machines replace the hand-operated auger. These and other modern advances are great time and labor-saving devices. A tree is seldom suitable for tapping until it is 40 years old. Several feet above the ground, a hole is bored about 2 inches deep and slanting slightly upward toward the center of the tree. A metal spout is driven into the hole, and a galvanized bucket is hung from the spout. The cover keeps out rain, snow, and impurities. After the trees are tapped and all the buckets hung, the farmer then awaits the first good thaw and the first run of sap. The run is on, and sugaring has now started. The workers must now rush to get ready. Firewood must be brought into the sugar house. The fires must be started and kept burning through the sugaring season. There are oil and natural gas evaporators, but many farmers still use wood fires. The modern-day sugar house, though plain, is highly efficient. It sits below a hill so that the sap will run down from the gathering tank and into the storage tanks. Maple sap is as perishable as milk and must be boiled as quickly as possible after it comes from the tree. The sap as it comes from the tree is a very dilute sugar solution. The boiling process concentrates the sugar and develops color and flavor, producing pure maple syrup. The evaporator is made in a number of sections for easier handling and is corrugated to increase the heating surface. Sap will run only when the temperature is above freezing, and it will not continue to run without intermittent conditioning periods of sub-freezing temperature. Thus, what is needed are warm, sunny days and cold, freezing nights. The sugar content of the sap varies widely from tree to tree, from orchard to orchard, and from season to season. A farmer who's lucky enough to have trees which yield large quantities of sap with a high sugar content may get as much as a gallon of syrup from each tree tapped. Unfortunately, maple syrup itself does not run from the trees, and there is much work to be done. There's a difference of opinion among Vermont sugar makers as to whether the tractor or the team of horses is more suitable for collecting sap. Many feel the tractor can haul a heavier load and can break through deep snow with more ease. They also feel the tractor used for this purpose can also be used for a variety of other farm chores. However, the advocates of the horse argue that a good team can get through snow as deep or deeper than a tractor can negotiate. Also, the team doesn't require an extra man, for they're trained to follow along with the men collecting sap. Many modern farmers who have tractors still keep the horses to use in the deep woods for sugaring as well as for logging and collecting wood. When the gathering tank is full, it is taken to the sugar house and is emptied into storage tanks to be drawn off and boiled into syrup as needed. During a good run, the syrup maker will spend many hours over the evaporator, often working all day and late into the night. Long years of experience have given the old-time syrup maker a sixth sense, which tells him when the syrup has reached the finishing point. He knows by the explosive way it is bubbling, by the color, and by the consistency. Sap acquires a maple flavor only through boiling. As the old-timers say, it takes a barrel of sap to make a gallon of syrup. And indeed, it usually takes 35 gallons of sap to make 1 gallon of syrup. Instruments such as the thermometer and the hydrometer check the sugar maker's intuition. As the finished syrup is drawn off, more sap must flow in to prevent the pans from going dry. To ensure crystal clarity, the syrup is filtered into settling tanks. Vermonters are proud of the light, sweet, table-grade syrups that they're able to produce due to the natural conditions of their soil and weather, but also due to their skill in the fine art of syrup making. of sugaring may be the best of all. In an average season of the month, sap will run about half the time, sometimes stopping as quickly as it started. Too warm temperature or a cooling breeze from the north and the flow is over for one day or several, depending upon the whims of nature. And when the run stops for good, it may do so very abruptly and without warning. As spring progresses, the work of sugaring is not over. After the collecting and syrup making is finished, there's still much to do. There's the packing of syrup and maple candy, shipping, storing of equipment, as well as the hundreds of thousands of buckets that must be washed. The sugar maker packs the syrup hot to ensure a sterile pack, whether it is canned directly from the filter tank or later reheated to 180 degrees and canned. Caps are sealed on the cans, and they're made ready for shipping. A certain amount of syrup is saved for the farmer's wife to make maple sugar or maple candy, mostly for her own family, but sometimes to sell along with the syrup. In this process, the syrup must be heated, then quickly cooled, and then stirred and stirred and stirred some more until it is ready to pour into molds to harden into maple candy. A traditional and famous use of maple syrup is the Vermonters' Sugar on Snow party. Late in spring, when there's time to rest a little from the work of sugaring, fresh, clean snow is brought down from the mountains. The syrup is heated and then poured on snow. This waxy delicacy is enjoyed by young and old, and is especially good when complemented by donuts and sour pickles. At the same time, high in the mountains where there is still snow and skiers are enjoying Vermont's spring skiing, many have their first opportunity of sampling maple products at a Sugar on Snow party called the Sugar Slalom. At last, even the mountain snows melt and summer arrives. The farmer finds his sugar-making tasks have ended just in time to start his heavy farm work. The rest of us usually have time to enjoy fully the wonderful Vermont countryside with swimming, hiking, camping, picnics, and other pleasures enjoyed in the Green Mountain State. During this time, the maple tree is taking full advantage of the summer. In its growing processes, it stores the energy from the sun and nutrients from the soil, all of which aid in the eventual miracle of maple flavor being formed in the sap. These months also see a flurry of activity in many other places in the maple industry. Those who can their own syrup and make their own sugar products must do their own selling. They may choose to sell to stores, by mail, or to the roadside market. Many farmers, however, are content to make fine syrup and leave the canning and distribution to others. Their syrup is poured into drums and taken to one of the commercial packers scattered throughout the state of Vermont. Here again, it is tested for color and density. Vermont standards are Fancy, Grade A, and Grade B. All syrup is graded according to color and flavor. Vermont Fancy has a light color and delicate flavor so distinctive that it is considered to be the ultimate maple product. After the testing and grading, the syrup is then processed and packed in the plant. The commercial canner preheats and packages the syrup, just as the individual farmer does, but he is equipped to do it on a larger scale. Uniformly high quality is maintained by the latest technical and scientific advances and controls. Another outlet for the farmer is to sell his syrup in bulk to the candy makers. In a dozen or so candy factories throughout the state, thousands of gallons of the lightest grades of maple syrup are used for the making of maple sugar and sugar products. The maple candy industry employs many workers and is a year-round operation. Nothing is added to make maple candy. More water is removed as the syrup is heated to the correct temperature, which varies with the type of product desired. This concentrate is cooled and stirred by mechanical beaters, much the same as the farmer's family stirs it in the kitchen pot. As the beating goes on, the syrup changes its consistency and its color. It is then reheated and put into machines that pour it into rubber molds while it is soft and plastic. The candy is taken to workers who shake the pieces from the rubber molds. They are then coated to keep them soft and fresh by soaking again in pans of warm maple syrup. When dry, the candies are packed in boxes of different sizes and shapes, wrapped and shipped to retail stores, fine restaurants, and to individual customers all over the world. Real maple sugar is used to flavor the popular-priced blended syrups. The darker grades of pure syrup are boiled down and molded into longer-lasting block sugar, which is mixed with cane sugar in great vats. It is heated and bottled by the most modern production line methods. Because of its scarcity, 100% pure maple products are a luxury item. If each person in the United States were allowed an equal share, he could receive but 1 ounce of the pure product, and no acceptable synthetic maple flavor for foods has yet been discovered. splendid maple product is packed and shipped to markets all through the world. As the summer ends, everyone looks forward to the arrival of the Vermont autumn and its famous foliage. As the maple tree becomes dormant with the arrival of winter, fall is the last season wherein the tree is actively working and the processes taking place which will ultimately, in the following spring, produce the amazing amount of sweet sap which will be processed into our maple products. One of the most rewarding things about the sugar maple is that it not only gives us many priceless maple products, but also puts on for us a wonderful display of foliage during the fall that makes it one of the most beautiful trees to behold. Advantage is taken of this fall spectacle by numerous hunters, hikers, and other visitors. One of the best ways to enjoy the foliage is on any of Vermont's many riding trails. Even during the fall, there are those who still work away in the maple industry. There are many who are constantly attempting to study new uses for maple products in the test kitchens of the University of Vermont, as well as in private organizations and industry. There seems to be no limit to the foods which are enhanced by the use of maple in cooking, and a constant study is underway to widen the scope. We can now use maple to make maple syrup cake with maple sugar frosting, maple nut bread, maple baked beans, maple candied sweet potatoes, maple mousse, maple ice cream. But most of us, of course, still think of maple syrup mainly to be poured over our pancakes and waffles. Yes, through the fall and on into winter, these people dedicated to the maple industry work on in the test kitchens and the laboratories, studying not only the uses to which syrup and its products can be put, but also ways to improve the trees and the methods of sugaring in all its phases. At the University of Vermont, a long-range, all-season program is in effect, with scientists studying the properties of the tree and the results of the tests being conducted. With the coming of spring, these scientists leave their laboratories inside and move to the outside laboratories, the experimental maple farms, where actual maple practices are observed, tested, and studied in action. The basic goal is to produce a uniformly finer product. This can only be done by understanding the physiology of the tree itself. Sugar content of the sap and temperature of the bark, twig, sap, and air are of great interest to maple researchers. Here experiments are made with the very latest sugaring inventions, such as plastic spouts, feed lines, bags, pumps, and other equipment. These plastic pipelines carry the sap directly from the tree to the storage tank in the sugar house. The sugar maple flourishes in mountainous places. It has found the conditions it likes best in Vermont, and here it thrives and produces the best flavored syrup in the world. The researchers hope that in the future they will be able to produce maple orchards of selected trees that will yield larger quantities of sweeter sap. All of this scientific work is of course aimed at the practical application of sugaring right in the farmer's sugar bush. The question is, will he be there in his sugar bush next year? Like many types of farming today, there are fewer and fewer each year to carry on. The farmer must spend many hours in cutting wood and hauling it to the sugar house. He must maintain and repair all his equipment, distribute and hang his buckets, collect the sap, boil it into syrup and other maple products, can and package the products, distribute and sell them, keep records and receipts, and clean and store all his equipment. All this work must be done in addition to his regular farm duties. When the farmer considers the amount of hard work and time that must be spent in sugar making, he often swears that he will not go through it all again next sugar season. Luckily for us all, with the coming of spring and its warming winds, with the starting of the sap flow, and with the hopeful and excited looks on the faces of his youngsters, the farmer seems to get the old sugaring fever again. And because of the long tradition in the Vermont hills, he somehow cannot seem to keep himself from reaping this treasure of the maple tree.